The best kept secrets in the IEM world are back with a new release. EPZ might not have Moondrop's massive marketing budget, and there's no celebrity endorsements having the lemmings rushing to their wallets. But EPZ continue to go about their business quietly with consistent high quality releases. I've reviewed a number of their products on this channel over the last couple of years and been impressed every single time. Their last release, a collaboration with Tipsy, the Star 1, when driven correctly, rivals the EA500 LM for technical performance at a much lower price. And before that, the excellent G10 and Q5, both Harman-ish diffuse field tuned sets, and both again giving fantastic value for money, especially the G10, which bundled with it loads of gaming accessories. But their latest release, and the one that we're taking a closer look at today, is the Q1 Pro. With vouchers you can pick these up for less than $30 currently on EPZ's AliExpress store. I've left links in the description. You can even get it with a USB-C cable instead of the standard 3.5mm jack, adding just a couple of quid extra. It features a single dual chamber polyurethane and liquid crystal dynamic driver. And in this review, I'm going to take you through the design and build quality, the comfort and fit, their audio and sound signature, including that tone, timbre and technicalities, and we'll be comparing them to the SIMGOT EW200 and the 7Hz02, as well as EPZ's original Q1 and some of the other products in their range. But first, let's start with the unboxing, and whilst it's very good for a sub $30 set, having experienced some of their previous unboxings, it was a little bit underwhelming. Whilst the outer enclosure shares some consistency with that of the G10, that's pretty much where the similarity ends. EPZ have historically been really good at including lots of different accessories. If you saw my review on their G10, you'll see that they gave pretty much everything in a budget release that a gamer could possibly want from an IEM. But this time around, things aren't quite as impressive. Instead, you're just getting one type of set of ear tips in small, medium and large. They're silicone and they're similar in style to the nice HCK7. Those ear tips are fine, but not really on this model. I much prefer the Feula, I think that's how you say it, H570. I'll talk more about those when we move into the sound section. The drawstring bag is fine for storing your tips and stuff like that, but I wouldn't carry your IEMs around in them because it's not going to give you a great deal of protection. And finally, the cable. As I said earlier, you get an option either with a mic, without the mic, or the USB-C version, which comes with a mic and a built-in controller. In terms of durability, it certainly doesn't look as impressive as the Leone 4N single crystal copper cable that comes in the non-USB version. The controller has 3 buttons, a volume up, a volume down and a play and pause. Nothing spectacular, but it is always nice to get the option of a USB-C cable. At the other end it's 0.78 and 2 pin, and the L and R are marked on the underside. EPZ, perhaps victims of their own success, they've really spoiled us with the unboxing experience with some of their previous releases. In reality, what you're getting with the Q1 Pro is absolutely fine at this price. And what about the design? Well, let's start by stating the obvious. These shells are absolutely gorgeous. The blue with purple swirls on the faceplate contrasts fetchingly with the grey EPZ logo. They've used a dermatologically friendly medical grade resin, making them both durable and skin friendly. EPZ boast precision DLP 3D printing designs and processes, and when you combine this with the precision that's gone into the driver technology, it should make for a much more consistent transient response across each individual unit, giving you much less variation in the sound and increased consistency. The contours that you see here on the inside are designed to give you a more custom fit against your conker. When I first saw the depth of the nozzle, I was a little bit concerned that this may feel a little bit invasive, but my fears didn't match reality. These are in fact super comfortable IEMs, and whilst they're not quite flush fitting like some of the SIMGOT offerings, it's still comfortable and low profile enough for my liking. The tuning hole at the top is part of this holistic design geared up to eking every last bit out of the audio quality. And what about the audio? Well, EPZ have once again delivered, punching above its weight massively for a sub $50 set, with their own slant on Harman tuning, and it's definitely for the better. Looking at the lower frequencies first, the sub bass is slightly more prominent than the mid bass. There's a nice rumble, but there's good control and decent texture as well. This is definitely not a bass head set, you'll see the bass shelf is below the pinner. That doesn't really bother me too much most of the time, although occasionally it can lack a little slam. There's mild bleed into the mid bass, although this again isn't something that ever really bothers me too much, certainly not at this level. The lower mids are clean, slightly recessed. There is a little bit of warmth, but male vocals can lack a little body sometimes. If you're into soul or you like listening to artists who have quite a broad vocal range, certainly male vocalists, then you may find the note weight to be a little thin. Female vocals are more forward and they can sound a little shouty at higher volumes due to the Fletcher-Munson effect, but generally the mids are really well done, very natural and very transparent. And the trebles are really well done as well. If you're treble sensitive, even though there is treble extension beyond 10k, I think you'll approve here. There's great texture to synths and snares, but the dip from around 5 to 8k obviates any sibilance. It's a safe tuning, but the micro detail on this set is really good. The super smooth treble combines well with the lighter note weight and natural mid-range to give a very well balanced sound. Whilst this set is, I think it's fair to say, more musical than technical, resolution and detail retrieval are still very decent, and as I said previously, definitely punching above their weight. Micro detail on both vocals and instruments is definitely palpable, and for me, in this aspect at least, it outperforms all of its major competitors in that sub $50 category. And even if you double your budget, I still think it fares pretty well. The staging is a real highlight as well. You've got fantastic depth and height for a set around this sort of price, and whilst the presentation doesn't necessarily always feel like it's at its widest, using the Feula H570 tips, this definitely opened it out a little bit. It's a grippy, food grade latex tip that does add a little bit of depth to the overall fit, but it did give the illusion of a slightly wider sound field, and it added a little bit of air to the sound as well. In that sub $50 category of IEMs, the competition is very fierce, notably from the 7Hz 02 and the SIMGOT EW200. But for me, the Q1 Pro outperforms both of them. Comparing it to the EW200 first, and the design is more akin to what I like in an IEM. I'm a sucker for metallic shells usually, and the shallow depth is ideal for my thin ear canals, whilst the contouring to the inside means that I could get pretty good isolation with it as well, and it would sit flush in my ear. Although to be fair, I know some people have complained of driver flex. When it comes to the sound, whilst the differences don't look huge on the graph, the higher bass shelf and elevated upper mid-range do make quite a difference to the tuning in reality. The more energetic, neutral, bright tone of the EW200 might impress more initially, but this added splash becomes crispy and sometimes turns into sibilance and can become very tiring over time. In the mids, the Q1 Pro always sound more natural, whereas EW200 can sometimes sound a bit forced. Whilst the EW200 win on bass and the staging feels more open, there's definitely better depth and height to the Q1 Pro, and the EPZ win comfortably on micro details as well. Typically, I felt it's a bit of a fool's errand to own two sub $50 IEMs, but these two really do complement each other quite nicely. That said, if I had to pick one, it probably would be the Q1 Pro due to its versatility and its longevity. The 7Hz 02 is also quite popular at this price point, although again, it's one whose fit really does polarize opinion. I found them to be okay, a little bit boxy and a bit bulky, and definitely some way behind both the EW200 and the Q1 Pro, whose curvature gives a much better fit. From a sound perspective, as I've said previously, I'm not a massive fan of the 7Hz 02. For single DD budget, it's not the easiest to drive. It's a warmer, bassier IEM, and this is especially noticeable in the mid bass. The staging is probably slightly wider, although it's nowhere near in terms of depth and height, and the 02's relaxed treble does give it a slightly boring sound. Detail is okay, but it falls some way behind the Q1 Pro. I don't think this model would have been anywhere near as popular had it not had Clinical in its name. The original Q1 was a little bit bulkier, but for my money it looked better, and arguably it fit even better than the Q1 Pro as well. That model though was much warmer and bassier sounding. It's a low pinner gain set, so you can imagine cranking the volume right up with this. But as you can see at the chasms at 6 and 12K, there's not a lot of energy to this. Thankfully, EPZ remedied some of these mistakes with the Q1 Pro. Finally, you recall that I really enjoyed EPZ's Q5 and still do. The Q5, a little bit warmer sounding, they've got a better bass response, but they've also got that 5K peak. So if you're someone that's sensitive to that, then you'll definitely prefer the Q1 Pro. The Q5 has a more expansive soundstage, but it does cost more as well. Current price on the Q1 Pro is 26 quid compared to 42 on the Q5. So for me, to summarize, the Q1 Pro has elevated itself to pole position in my recommendation for the best IEM in that sub $50 category, and that's mostly down to its versatility. My previous pick, the SIMGOT EW200, is a fantastically technical set, but it could be a little bit too bright in certain instances with certain music styles. But the Q1 Pro has better balance, it's less fatiguing for longer listening sessions, and its slightly lighter note weight makes it more appealing across the various genres. EPZ's run of exceptional value releases continues. At under $30, these are an absolute steal. Part of me wishes they'd included better accessories to be more appealing to the first time buyer in the same way that they did with the original Q1, but it's a very minor quibble over an otherwise superb release. What did you think of the EPZ Q1 Pro? Do leave your comments in the comment section below. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it useful, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. For now, it's ReganCipher signing off.